You are a failure. Imagine if someone said that to you, they would be asking to get punched. Or if I said that at some point in life, you will feel as though you cannot amount to anything meaningful and you should just give up. Keep what I said in mind. Feel. It is the basis for everything I want to talk about. You can't hope to make it in life with a half-baked mindset. In fact, no one can. We are completely obsessed with youth and speed. Everywhere you look online, someone is hitting it big at 22, making millions by 25, or becoming an overnight sensation before they've even figured out who they are. But this focus on early, easy success has created a quiet epidemic, a generation of people who feel like failures before they've even started. If you feel like you're falling behind, I need to understand something. The things that will actually reshape the world are never built quickly. The problem with overnight success is that it deletes the most important part of the journey, the gridlock. When you're in your 20s or 30s and your projects keep failing, your bank account is empty, or people keep rejecting your ideas, the natural instinct is to think, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. You assume the greats had it easy, but the data says the exact opposite. Before he became a legend, Akira Toriyama was completely broke and lived at home with his parents. He worked a conventional design job, which he quit at 20 years in 1977. He would then spend the next 2 years facing the rejection of over 500 pages of manuscript. He made a minor debut with Wonder Island in 1978, but he was ranked dead last and would then spend another full year drawing absolute flops till his first minor success, Tomato Girl Detective, in 1979. He would make a breakthrough in 1980 when he launched Dr. Slump, now at the age of 25, and would go on to create Dragon Ball in 1984. Soichiro was 31 years old when he began his research to create a unique piston ring in 1937 to sell to Toyota. When he finally finished, Toyota rejected it, saying it didn't meet their quality standards. Soichiro poured every cent of his engineering shop's capital into metallurgical equipment, and when that ran out, he was so financially desperate that he pawned his wife's family jewelry just to buy the raw materials to keep his forge running. After finally getting Toyota to buy his design, his factory was flattened by Allied bombs in 1944. He was 38 years old. He salvaged what he could, only for the Mikawa earthquake to destroy the rest in 1945, just a year later. To get back to manufacturing, he had to sell his piston design back to Toyota for cash, leaving him with nothing and forcing him to start from scratch with nothing but a low-budget home workshop. Out of pure desperation and left with nothing but a few spare engines and a bicycle, he rigged them together to create a motorized bike for a resource-starved post-war Japan. That desperate low-budget invention bettered Honda, and finally incorporated the Honda Motor Company in September of 1948. He was 41 years old. Rowling had first conceived the idea for Harry Potter in the mid-1990s on a train delayed for 4 hours from Manchester to London at the age of 25. And over the span of 7 years, her mom died. She moved to Portugal, got married, went through a brutal divorce, moved to Scotland as a broke single mom, and lived off welfare while battling clinical depression. By the time she was writing the initial manuscript for her first book, she was a single mom living on government welfare in Edinburgh. She wrote the original drafts for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by hand, and to submit it, she had to type it up on a £10 second-hand manual typewriter. Once the full manuscript was typed, she needed multiple copies to send out to different agents. However, she was so poor that she couldn't afford the fee per page to use a commercial photocopying machine. So, to save money, she chose a staggering amount of physical labor and manually retyped the entire book from scratch multiple times just to create duplicate submission copies. Rowling shared that the very first literary agent she queried sent back a slip of paper saying, "My list is full." Crucially, the agent kept the plastic folder she submitted because it wouldn't fit the return envelope, and she really minded about the folder because she had almost no money and had to buy another one. She was rejected by 12 major publishing houses, with editors calling it too long and saying there was no money in children's books. She would finally publish her book when a tiny publishing house, Bloomsbury, finally gave her a chance, purely because the chairman's 8-year-old daughter read the first chapter and demanded the rest at the age of 31 in June 1997. Born Sylvester Gaudenzio Stallone, he moved to New York at the age of 25 to pursue acting, but was faced with constant rejection and had to work odd jobs to survive. At one point, he had only $106 in his bank account, his electricity was cut off, and he had to sell his beloved dog, Butkus, for $40 to a stranger just to buy groceries at the age of 28. He wrote the script for Rocky in a 3-day burst of inspiration. Producers loved the script and offered him life-changing money for it, but only if someone else starred in it. Stallone was offered $350,000 at the time for the rights to the movie, and he had less than $110 in his bank account and a pregnant wife. But he walked away from the money because they wouldn't let him star and fought for over a year to ensure he would star in it for $23,000, a tiny fraction of the initial offer, culminating in the movie's legendary release and Best Picture win. He was 30 years old. Harrison Ford built his first experimental vehicle, the quadricycle, in 1896 at the age of 33, and he would move on to found the Detroit Automobile Company in 1899, which failed in 1901, lasting only 3 years. It didn't just cost him his personal savings, it cost his financial backers the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars. He suffered his first massive corporate bankruptcy at 37. He would try again after securing victory in a race against Alexander Winton and was able to get the much needed investment, but history would repeat itself. He clashed with his financial backers so severely over designs because he spent too much time designing race cars instead of a passenger car, forcing them to bring in an outside consultant to oversee production. Ford was fired and they reorganized the shop and renamed the entire business Cadillac. Remember, this was from his own company. Ford was cast out into the cold, completely broke, and regarded by Detroit elites as an unstable, unviable manager who couldn't successfully bring a passenger car to market. It would take him 5 more years of scraping together small loans and partnering with a local coal dealer to launch his third and final attempt at the age of 40. They leased a small factory and contracted the Dodge brothers to supply parts. They were so close to financial collapse that they'd spent almost all of their $20,000 investment by the time they sold their first commercial car in July of 1903. The car was a huge success, and the first few months generated a $37,000 profit, giving Ford the financial stability to execute his ultimate dream. He was 45 years old when the Model T was officially introduced in October 1908, completely altering modern manufacturing. Look at the pattern: 25, 30, 31, 41, 45. None of these people were overnight successes. They were people who had to pay a massive physical, financial, and emotional toll just to get their ideas in front of the gatekeepers. They had to retype pages by hand, ship heavy manuscripts across the country, rebuild from rubble, and watch their names get stripped off buildings. So if you're sitting there right now at 20-something or 30-something, feeling like you've missed the boat because your project didn't go viral or your business hasn't taken off yet, breathe. You haven't failed. You're just in the middle of your rough draft. And as history shows us, the best stories take time to write.